Action.
We're not crystallizing.
No? I mean, we're starting our first unhinged video reflection. So the more uncrystallized, the more raw the thoughts, the better it is.
Okay, but it's 11 p.m.
But that's fine. As long as we don't get distracted by Bailey, who is our special guest today. And who will be our special guest for all our unhinged video reflection.
He's not too willing, I think.
So we want to start something like that because we are at our 25th episode on Man on Mission Show.
Yay!
So it has been about 1.5 years since we started this whole podcast, and I thought it's time to start something behind the scenes to share our rawest opinions and our learning lessons.
Is there such a word called raw?
What sound is that?
Rust?
Rawest, no? That means not filtered lah.
Okay.
See what Singlish comes out.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna jump straight into some of the key points, okay? So first things first, what are your top lessons learned? Or it could be one lesson. Never give up. Explain more.
I mean, with all the different episodes and all that, one thing that is kind of common with everyone, I think, is the fact that not everyone succeeds on the first try, for sure. And there are many, many instances in their journey where the end point wasn't clear, or perhaps where the journey becomes quite difficult as well. Right? And all of them went through that and were able to come out on top.
The interesting thing I learned about this is that experiences are part of success. Okay, what do I mean by that? Because recently we had a conversation with PE fund manager, and then we were talking about some of the criteria that VCs, PE firms choose or consider before they invest in the business. And if the founder of the business is clean slate, that means first ever business, going into this, want to raise funds.
Haven't failed before.
Haven't failed before. It actually became a factor to not consider the business.
Yes.
Right, so having battle scars, right, is a good point.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Interesting. Never give up. I think my top lesson learned so far is that business is a game.
How so?
I mean, what's the definition of a game, right? A game is...
Wow, that explains a lot.
There are characters, there are rules, there are saboteurs, there are also objectives and goals that you have to achieve.
But an interesting thing, adding on and extending from that, right, which I want to ask is, does it mean that there's gonna be winners and losers in business?
Oh, interesting. So usually a game is based on finite constraints, right? Up to a certain extent, you go to a certain milestone and it ends there, and then you determine the winner and the loser. But the interesting thing about business, which we learned from Simon Sinek in Finite Game, is that business is a game that doesn't have an end, right? So as long as you keep playing the game, as long as you don't give up, following up to your point, and you keep being in the game, you will naturally get to success, or your definition of success.
Awesome.
So business is a game. Okay, next. What is your favorite podcast so far?
What is yours?
Wow.
I mean, you have more episodes than me.
So for context, I am the main host for all 25 episodes, and then Adeline joined us on the 10th.
Yes.
Right, I remember the Angyut episode.
Yes.
So I'll say my personal favorite so far, okay, I have two, I can't decide. One is the Tommy Pang episode. The one that he shares about the entire playbook of doing F&B business, which I thought was very, very insightful, down to how much do you have to invest, what is the actual game, what are you actually playing, and also talking about how FDIs, Chinese investment funds, are playing the shopping mall restaurants. And that game is not accessible to regular folks like you and me that doesn't have any money, right? So I thought that was my favorite so far, in the sense that it encapsulates the insight into how to play the game. My second was a special one. It's an episode with Guang Yao, hairstylist. Yeah, I thought it was very interesting because we wouldn't think that a hairstyling business is a very modern business or a very popular business. You would think that it's a high craft business, and it's also only for business for the uneducated.
I see.
Yeah, so the fact that he has a lot of opinions, a lot of thoughts about the hair industry and how he wants to transform that, I thought that was very enlightening. And it goes to show that there's no one business that's more important in society than the other. It's all about our perspective and the importance that we create for ourselves. So I thought that was my favorites. How about you? What's your favorite so far?
My own episode.
Wow. So the funny thing is, our first episode was, our guest was Adeline, I'm the host, because there was only two of us. and we did a proof of concept. But hey, we had a great episode, right?
Yeah, we did. I thought it was interesting from the point of view of really sharing about what goes on behind the thought processes also that we had. Of course, I think that some of those have changed throughout the years that we have been doing stuff as well. And I think there's a vast change in how we think about marketing as well as we move along with the changing times. That was our first episode. I will have to be biased and say that is one of my favorite. But with me as a host, or co-host, I would say that one of my other favorite was with Grace of New Fit. I love the stories and also love how interesting the mission of the business is. You know, what still wowed me when we say, hey, what's one special thing that you guys are going to be doing? And the answer was totally unrelated to like promos or stuff of the gym, but it was really something that they were doing for the community. That was really interesting.
I want to ask, what's the difference in the experience when you were a guest versus a host? What's that one difference?
A very interesting thing that I find when I'm a host is that I have a little bit of an internal struggle between staying present, talking to the guest, versus questions that are popping up in my head.
So I have that multitask.
Yeah, I have that struggle, you know, because as they're answering and all that, I'm like, oh my god, this is a real question I've got to ask. I think people will be interested to know this. I am curious about it myself, but then I find myself thinking about the questions and then like, hey, I kind of lost track of where the guest is. That part of dimension was something that I didn't really expect, which is why a lot of times you guys will see me tinkering with my phone. I'm not messaging someone or my iPad.
Distracted.
Yeah, I was just like jotting down questions so that I don't lose them along the way.
Okay, let's talk about our current position. Where are we right now?
Where are we right now? You mean in terms of what, the guests, or in terms of the podcast, or where we are going in the direction?
Yeah, maybe I'll add on in the context of the business. Yeah, we have done this podcast for 1.5 years. I mean, some ask, are we actually monetizing the business? What is our goal doing this podcast? How does it link to our business? Right? So we do have multiple business interests under our company, Superseed Media, right? So I think it's about understanding and appreciating where we are so far.
I think interestingly, even at some of the events as well, when we were asked to share about our podcast, we have always said one thing, which is we are investing in our podcast.
Yeah. They changed along the way, right? It wasn't like that at first.
I mean, of course, not at first. Interestingly, I think when we started our podcast, the honest truth be told, would be that we were trying to use podcasts to filter for our clients. Remember when we started? Yeah. So one of our...
If you don't count the podcast and you can't speak well, I can't choose you as my client. Is it something like that?
At the very start, and it has always been, I would say, quote-unquote mandate for our business, was that we wanted to work with businesses that did really good stuff for the community and for the ecology as well. One of the ways then is to really filter for people who are quote-unquote then on a mission. Right, and that was kind of how this whole IP came about.
If you have a mission, you can't sit with us.
No, but we are not that. I would say that it's not just all that altruistic in that sense, right? Of course, there's still a big business function to it. There were also episodes where we have paid guests as well. So where are we now on this?
Yeah, I think after 25 guests, we had a realization that we wanted now to prioritize more on the content, to have very, very good content and to grow our audience base rather than just monetize. For the nature of a conversation of a podcast, it needs to be very opinionated leaders, people that have been out there speaking about their thoughts, their thought leadership, and have been grilled by the public, right, for their opinions. So they have a very refined and crystallized way of talking, which we have in our latest episode that we filmed but haven't featured yet, right, which we are not going to share. You're going to have to watch it. And because of that, we have the idea that, hey, maybe for the next year, right, we're going to invest in 12 or maybe 18 really, really good guests that already have some sort of following online and they're onto something.
But the question, playing the devil's advocate, would be, if they have been so out there, wouldn't we have heard it all.
I think it's a bit hard because we have so much noise on social media these days, right?
Right.
So how do you then tell if the opinion is right for you? How then do you tell that this person is speaking in the right context? I think it needs to go through our interview, our 1.5 hours of grilling to be able to find that out a little more. So that's our role that we want to play, right? To be good facilitators of thought leaders,
Yeah.
which I think will impact businesses for good in the next years and the many years to come.
So, quick question. Do you think the purpose of our podcast has changed?
We actually define a stronger purpose, which is to help our audience shortcut success. Because we have such great podcast guests online, right? I mean, we interviewed in my opinion, the greatest in our era for F&B, someone who exited a business in e-commerce, right? Someone who is in a multi-gen business of longer years than Singapore's age, right? And we learn all these insights and go like, hey, it actually forms impression and it shapes the way that we think about our business. We want that to be shared to the audience and be able to shape their success as well. So current struggles that we want to share. Be vulnerable, they say.
Be vulnerable. I would say, please give us more guests. Refer us some people. I would think that in terms of the local market, when I say local market, I guess I am self-restricted.
Okay.
In that sense, but I do really want to have something a little bit more physical in terms of podcasts. That means, not an online podcast. We've tried that before, even though that was in a local context, right? But I feel that physical podcasts, by nature of being in the same environment, the same space, and even, I mean, if you reference even some of the top podcasts as well, they literally even create the environment, the smell, the temperature, the feeling,
The vibes,
the colors, or when you walk in, right? So I feel that the physical location or the physical closeness when we're doing a podcast is important. So by virtue of that, I feel that there is a certain limitation and difficulty for us to get certain types of guests that we want. Right, I mean, very good example. Who are some of the top guests that we have wanted to invite but didn't get on the show?
it was a try lah.
Yeah, it was a try, but of course, firstly, they're not based in Singapore. So it would have been only for that window or the period that they were here.
Yeah.
We couldn't fly them in specifically for the podcast because, our finances, it wouldn't work out for the podcast alone. And then, of course, then it's all up to whatever's happening on their side of the schedule. So I think that is in itself a slight difficulty for us.
I think one main thing was the conversation on how to monetize a podcast. That was tough. To be very honest, throughout the years, we did have some people that paid for the episode. We had some people that paid separately for personal branding, right? But ultimately, in terms of the traction of the product in the market, it wasn't there. So that's why we decided to, okay, you know what, let's just full on invest in our podcast and curate very good guests. Yeah, so we are not moving forward for now until our next video. We are not going to monetize on the podcast. And that will be a commitment that we make lah. And then from there, we need to monetize from our other forms of business.
Quick question. If YouTube's gonna place ads?
Not for now. I mean, we are not Stephen Bartlett level, right? Hopefully one day I'll be able to go to his show or vice versa. That'll be the dream. Okay, crazy ideas we had that didn't work out.
Well, some of the guys, right?
Yeah, I think you're hinting at that just now.
Yes.
So interestingly, we reached out to Bill Gates when he was in Singapore to set up a foundation, I think. And immediately, actually his media team is very responsive.
Right.
He responded almost immediately.
With a no.
Yeah, with a no. But yeah, I was surprised that they were so responsive. I thought they would at least have too many emails to handle, but within, I think, half an hour or even shorter, they replied with a no. Of course, I didn't take no for an answer. I went on TikTok to chat with them further.
Stop it.
Yeah, so that was one. And another one was
Crystal.
Yeah, Crystal. I think he was in Singapore to do a personal branding bootcamp. We wanted to invite him to interview him, but I think our reach out is flooded in their multiple reach outs. Well, I guess we are not big enough. Yeah,
Got drowned in their inboxes.
Yeah, got drowned in the inbox. So yeah, maybe next year, if we build up to something, just like how Rachel Lim from Love Bonito managed to get Stephen Butler on the show, right?
Yeah.
So we never know what happens next year. We'll revisit this again and see where it goes. Now, our future direction. Where do you want to go with this?
Like you say, our purpose, our why hasn't changed. So I think in terms of direction, it's still pretty much the same. We want to get experiences. We want to speak to people who can share with us and the business owners and founders out there how to get to the success that they deserve.
Awesome. And lastly, what's in it for the audience?
Well, I think definitely we're going to have more talks.
As if it's not enough.
More lessons, I guess. Yeah, more lessons. I would say that more unhinged content, like you like to put it, right?
I actually googled what unhinged means because it's kind of like a colloquial representing crazy people, and true enough, it means crazy.
It is crazy.
I don't know whether we sound crazy. I don't think we sound crazy.
No.
But the whole idea is unfiltered content that we want to do more behind the scenes to interact with you, and maybe to have some engagement with the comments that will ask us more questions about business, about life, about our business as well, right?
Yeah, and maybe even about what we do outside of Men on a Mission. We'll be happy to share as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that one thing that you will see a lot more would be just us. I hope that's a good thing.
Okay. Catch you again. Bye.
Bye.
I feel we need a end credit song.
Yeah.